guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are finally going to be talking about the Makeup Obsession London's Calling palette. I'm saying finally because I have had this palette in my possession since the end of September. So it has now been a while and I think it's been out since the summer. So most of you have probably made up your mind about it anyway at this point, but I still wanted to talk about it. I have actually tried to film this video now quite a few times. I had a few failed attempts and then I did actually manage to film a full video, but then decided it needed some changes, so just scrapped it. I will be going into detail about some of the issues I experienced filming this video, and I will explain why it's been so delayed as we go throughout this video. One of the reasons though that's kind of general, not just down to this palette, is that I've just been having a bit of a struggle with inspiration lately. Basically throughout the whole month of October. I thought I was out of it, but I tried to do a look last week and I think I had about 4 attempts and then just ended up stopping. I don't know, I've just been struggling a little bit lately, so that's why I haven't had as much content out as I really wanted, or didn't film as many videos as I wanted to last month, just in case you've been wondering. Although, according to my YouTube statistics anyway, only 6.4% of you guys that watch my videos are actually subscribed, so the remaining 93.6% of you guys watching right now probably like, don't care, just move on, get to the review. So let's do that. Let's finally talk about this palette. So this is the London's Calling palette from Makeup Obsession. So just in case you don't know, Makeup Obsession is part of the Revolution Beauty family. It's a brand that's sold in Boots. This was part of a drop of 3 or 4 palettes. I want to say over the summer. This has been out for a while at this point. It has been a few months. The palette comes in a Union Jack cardboard sleeve with the name on it. When you open up the cardboard, it looks exactly the same on the inside. The only difference on the back is that the cardboard sleeve is red and then this one is blue. This palette is cruelty free and vegan. You are getting 10 eyeshadows. Each one weighs 1.3 grams and the palette retails for £6. So just to give you a comparison, the Forever Flawless Ice, each eyeshadow is 1.1 gram, but you have 18 of them, so you are getting more product, and this one is £10. This one does work out more expensive when you look at the cost per gram, but I don't know, for £6 it doesn't bother me that much. I am thinking of starting to compile a Google Doc with price per gram, price per milliliters, you know, depending on the products that we're looking at, kind of like what Stephanie Nicole used to do if you ever followed her on YouTube. Let me know if that's something that you guys would be interested in, just to keep on top of prices, because I know some people, cost per gram is very important to them, others don't really care, but do let me know in the comments if you'd be interested in that kind of information. As with most Revolution eyeshadow palettes at this point, they have drawn a little diagrams with the 10 eyeshadows here. We then have the ingredient list for all of them here, and shade number 3 and shade number 7 have got an asterisk. They've got a separate ingredient list here because they are pressed pigments, so there is a little symbol here just to say that they are not eye safe. I always use pressed pigments on my eyes, whether they say that they're eye safe or not, but if you'd rather not use them, obviously completely up to you. Apart from some light staining here and there, usually with pink and red shades, I've never had any issues. Then when you open up the palette, this is what it looks like. So you have a nice little mirror in there. As always, you have a protective plastic sleeve on the shadows, and these are the 10 eyeshadows. So we have 2 shimmers, which are Crown and Rebel. The pressed pigments are Kensington and Royalty, so they are the 2 red shades. I just want to mention quickly that really weirdly, even though these are the pressed pigments, I've not actually had any staining with them, but I have had staining with the cool tone shades over here that are eyeshadows, and it's just a bit odd. I've never had that. So the remaining matte shades are Tea, Earl Grey, Corgi, Hyde Park, Underground, and Regal. I think the shade names are really cute. I also think it's a really nice shade selection. If I had to represent British weather in autumn in an eyeshadow palette, I mean, this is probably what I would go for. So I don't normally do the swatches during the video. I normally insert them afterwards, but I keep seeing Make Me Up Missa doing it, so I'm gonna give it a go. We'll see how it goes, and if it doesn't work, I will just insert them. So the first shade is Crown. I mean, I think it's absolutely gorgeous. The next shade is Tea. Then we have Kensington. So that is one of the pressed pigments. It is a really, really lovely colour. Then we have Rebel. Look at that swatch. It does swatch really, really beautifully. Then we have Earl Grey. And then we have Corgi. And then we have Royalty. You can tell that's the other pressed pigment from how well that's swatched. The next one is the green, which is Hyde Park. Then Underground. Does not swatch well. And then finally, Regal. There you go. Not too bad if I can stay in frame. So again, as always, swatches do not mean everything. They are not representative of how it's gonna look on your eyes when you use it with a brush. But the first thing that I'm seeing is those two pressed pigments and those two shimmers. I mean, especially these two. Look at that. They do look really good. That one just swatches so beautifully. Even Crown, I really like it. They are some gorgeous shimmers, and they are normal shimmers. There's no issues with them like there was in the Chilled palette. They are just a normal formula. There's nothing odd going on there. So when the palette was originally announced and released, I thought that this palette looked pretty similar to another one, which I think we can say we've all come to expect with Makeup Revolution at this point. I felt like it reminded me a lot of the Subculture palette by Anastasia Beverly Hills. I can tell you that they are definitely not dupes for one another. This is the second reason why filming this video took me so long. I initially wanted this to be a comparison between the two palettes, doing a look on this side with this palette and a look on the other eye with the ABH palette, and it was a complete disaster. I would start with some colours that looked pretty similar to each other, and then carry on, and then eventually get to two colours that I thought might be the same and actually looked very different and just didn't work on the eye at all. I made a couple of attempts at that and then just gave up entirely. I would say there are some slight similarities. Crown, surprisingly similar to Electric. I'll swatch them for you quickly. So there's Crown, and then there's Electric. I do feel like Crown does have a bit of a green base, which I didn't initially realise. So I guess it is a bit of a cooler gold, almost, if that makes sense. The only two shades that I would really say dupe each other are Underground and Axis. So Axis is a lot more pigmented here on the arm. When used on the eyes on a wet base, they were practically identical. But other than that, the other shades are pretty different, even if you think they might be the same. If you were thinking of getting this one instead of the Subculture palette, there are much better dupes out there. Revolution do one in their the £4 palettes, and I know W7 do one as well. However, if you own the Subculture palette or one of the dupes for it and you were wondering if it was worth getting this one as well, they're pretty different from each other. I don't think you're wasting your money in that case. When I actually managed to film a full review for this, I kind of left it at that, and then maybe a day or two later, before I'd had the chance to start editing, I was reminded of another palette that existed which looks a lot more similar to this one, and that is the Jeffree Star Androgyny palette. I think we can agree that that's where Makeup Revolution or Makeup Obsession drew their inspiration from. I don't own it, so I can't give you a comparison on that. But yeah, the colour scheme, I think we can tell where the idea for this one has come from. But surprisingly, works really well for the London theme. Anyway, I have been talking for ages at this point, so I am gonna go off and prime my eyes with the PLouise Base, and then we'll come back and I will finally try to do a look with this palette. Alright, so my eyes are now primed, and this time I have remembered to turn YouTube off on my phone so that you guys can't hear Mario music in the background. So let's jump into the palette. I'm going to start with the shade Rebel. I'm going to put that in my crease using my Zoeva 231 brush. I'm only gonna go halfway with this one. So obviously this is no longer a first impression, but I will say that the first time I used this palette, I was really impressed with the pigmentation. You can see with this shade, I mean, that's really quite impressive, I think. It isn't patchy. It's got so much depth to it. I think this is really well formulated. That's all I've got to say. I'm gonna carry on with the same brush. I've just given it a white on my colour switcher. What am I gonna go for next? Okay, next, I think I'm gonna go into the shade Corgi, and I'm gonna come in and blend out that outer corner. I feel like these two may be struggling to blend out a little bit together. I like the colour combination though. I think it is very murky and stormy. So if you think of a grey sky in England in autumn, you're probably going to be thinking of some of these colours. But yeah, I feel like maybe I am just struggling to blend just a little bit. But in terms of pigmentation, that's a pretty good shade. And if you think back to how they swatched, they definitely do apply a lot better with a brush. I don't feel like I'm having any issues blending it out on this side. I don't know what I've done differently, if I have done anything differently at all. This side just seems to be going a little bit better. I'm going to take a clean 231 brush, and then I'm going to go into Royalty, and that's going to go next to Corgi in the centre of the eye. So this time, this one is a pressed pigment. Ooh, that has picked up a lot more. I'm going to pop some on the other eye, I think. Yeah, immediately this is quite a bit stronger. I don't know what's going on. I really feel like the left eye is blending out better than the right eye. I'm not having difficulties blending it out. I just want to make that clear. I'm not having any issues. I just feel like things are going just a bit smoother on this side than they are on my right eye. But overall, they're not bad. Again, I'm not really noticing patchiness. And yeah, I think the pigmentation is absolutely lovely. Bring it forwards. Softening it around the edge as well. I think that's going well so far. So next up, I'm gonna take Kensington, which is the other pressed pigment. Still on my 231, and if we've learnt anything, it's to go in a bit more light-handed with this one. And that's gonna be for the front of the crease. I feel like I am having to pick up a bit more product with this one. I don't know if my base has kind of dried up at this point. Just going little by little with this shade and bringing it upwards and blending it into Royalty. I've given the brush a quick white, and I've just gone back in with a little bit more of Royalty just to blend it upwards. But with this one I have only gone in with a tiny little bit of product. Okay, that's it for the top portion of the eyeshadow. I feel like something doesn't quite look as smooth on this side. I think it looks a lot better on this one, so I don't think it's necessarily the eyeshadow. I think it's just me. I just don't know what that is. I'm gonna jump into this kind of mid-sized shadow brush, and I'm gonna try Hyde Park. And I'm going to come and pop that on the outer corner of the eye. This is going to come and blend with the cut crease afterwards. Let's see how they blend in together. So for the second eye look that I did, the second eye look that I did with this palette, I used all of the cool tones, and I felt like I was having issues blending in the shades at the time. I felt like I struggled a bit more. I don't really feel like I did this time, so overall I think the matte shades do blend pretty well. No complaints from me really at all this time around. I am gonna go and be extra boring. I'm gonna go and cut my crease into a half cut crease, and then we'll be back to play with the shimmers. I keep seeing videos on Instagram of people doing their cut crease in like one singular motion, and meanwhile mine just take me absolute ages because I can never remember how high up I need to take the things. So anyway, here we are. So just a boring, normal half cut crease. So we have a choice between two shimmers. Well, I guess they're actually metallics. So Crown and Rebel. I just want to say right now, I can't really imagine myself using Rebel that much. I don't get that inspired by coppers. I tend to go more for golds and silvers. So I'm gonna go for Crown today. And I feel like this is a really hard shade to use for me. In one of my filming attempts, I tried to use it on the cut crease and then actually ended up taking it off because I just didn't like the way it looked. I'm sure it is possible to get some lovely looks out of it if you're using maybe Rebel, Earl Grey, Royalty, but I've just been struggling with it just a little bit. Anyway, I'm gonna take Crown on a flat brush and just fill in the cut crease. So I will say that I am digging in a fair bit into the palette, and it does have that kind of chunky texture, but it definitely doesn't look chunky on the lid. It looks really smooth and really lovely. I'm using this dry. I haven't used it wet yet. I think this is just a really lovely shade. Definitely more of that cool toned gold, but I really like the quality of it. It's a lovely formula. Go back in with a little bit of Hyde Park and blend. Alright, that's the cut crease done. So like I said, I really like this shade. It did feel a little bit more chunky and crumbly on this side, but I think I might have just dug my brush in a little bit more. But I think it looks absolutely gorgeous without needing any sort of spray or anything. I do feel like Crown just works with every shade in the palette. I used it in both the looks I've done with it on Instagram so far, and one of them was cool tone, one of them was warm tone. So I feel like it fits in really, really well with the palette. It's just usable with absolutely everything, which I just haven't felt with Rebel. Anyway, I have now just primed my lower lash line, so I'm going to finish that off quickly. I'm going to start by taking Regal again, just on a small brush, and just popping that into the lower lash line. Then using my Morphe M138, I'm going to go back into Corgi to blend that out on the outer half and to connect that up with the top lid. This is definitely why I do my eyes before my face, because I am making a mess out of this. Gonna jump back into my Zoeva brush just to blend these in together a bit more. And then I'll just clean it up with concealer. And then just taking the same Morphe brush again, I'm gonna go into some of Underground to just blend out the front of that lower lash line. Okay, I think that is finally enough colours on my eye today. I mean, how many have we used? We've used 7 out of the 10 colours, so we've done pretty well. So I'm now going to go and do some liner, but I'm going to do that off camera because otherwise you're just going to be staring at my forehead the whole time. And then I'll do the rest of my face after that, and we'll come back and have a chat about the palette. Alright guys, so that's it for the finished look. So I've added some winged liner and then a liner detail with the Suva Beauty Dance Party Hydra liner. I'm also trying out some new lashes. Falseeyelashes.co.uk sent me a few pairs to try out, so thank you very much for sending these across. These particular ones are from Lash Pop. I think the style is called Out of the Blue. They are vegan and cruelty free, so they are synthetic fibres. I feel like maybe they look a little bit plasticky. They look okay from a distance, but I felt like as I was applying them, they maybe did look a little bit plasticky, so just be aware of that if that's something that you don't like. If you don't mind, they're not a bad pair. They look pretty good. They're really long. They are exactly the style that I normally like. I also ended up going for a pink lip because I really felt like I needed some sort of berry lip to tie into the eyeshadow. I don't actually own one, so I think at some point I need to go and pick up the 2 remaining Revolution Pro New Neutral lipsticks that I'm still missing because I think I need them for this winter. I can't believe I don't have any berry shades. And I've gone for the Revolution Conceal and Hydrate foundation, and I already didn't get on with it in my review. I'm just gonna use it up because it's there and I don't want to waste it, but it looks alright on camera, but I feel like in real life it's just really not sitting well, and I felt like that every one of the last few times I've used it, so it's definitely not going to be a repurchase for me. I'm kind of looking forward to finishing the bottle at this point. Anyway, let's get on to my final thoughts about this palette. So I think the quality of this is really really good. Really good. Considering that this palette is £6, I think the shades are really nicely pigmented. I've had a few blending issues here and there, but overall I really like how this look turned out. Yeah, I think they're great eyeshadows, and if all of the other palettes are this quality, I want to try them out. So if there are any other Makeup Obsession palettes that you want me to review, leave them down in the comments because I want to try more by them. I was really impressed with this one. There is just a little negative thing that I want to add, and I feel like people are going to think that I never quite want to give Revolution a perfect score with their products. There's always just like a tiny little thing that I need to let you guys know about. Like I said, it's nothing to do with the quality. This is going to be something that is completely down to personal preference. So you may or may not agree with it. It's just how I felt working with this palette. But there's something about the color scheme that I was really struggling with. So I mentioned that I struggled to film this video. I gave it multiple attempts, and what was happening was that I was just kind of struggling to create a look just using this eyeshadow palette. Obviously today I've added the liner, so I know I've added something, but I mean more in terms of using another palette with it. There was just something that wasn't quite working for me. And at the beginning I thought it might be because this palette was a 10-pan palette, and I was thinking that maybe this color scheme didn't quite work with being a 10-pan palette. This is when I thought that it had been inspired by the Subculture palette, and this one has 14 shades in total, so just an extra 4, but there's just something a bit more inspiring about this one. So I thought my issue was maybe with the shade Rebel, which is the copper, because out of 10 shades, the 2 metallics are both warm toned. The ABH palette, you've got Adorn, which is a very clear warm shade. Electric is a green with a bit of a warm duochrome to it, and then Cube is a white with a pink undertone. So Cube and Electric, the quality is pretty awful. They're really difficult to use, but you've got warm and cool shimmers, whereas this only has warm ones. And personally, I would feel happier if there was maybe a silver, because I feel like I could get more use out of that than I will out of Rebel. Now, when I realised how similar this looks to the Androgyny palette, something else that was missing came to my mind. Both palettes have got similar shimmers. The main difference is this colour, which is Kensington in the palette, which in Androgyny is a yellow. I really don't understand why they haven't put the yellow in. I don't get it. I think a yellow is really missing in this palette. The first look that I did with this palette is my warm toned look with it, and I ended up using my Beauty Bay and Mitchell palette because I needed a yellow. Maybe if I wanted to use these shades a bit more, again a yellow would just be nice to blend the shades out. I just don't really understand why it's not there. I would almost describe the Androgyny palette as a rainbow palette, but not a bright one, like a bit more of a murkier one. This doesn't have that, and I really feel like it's missing it. I like the price point, I like the size, I think it's really nice and compact, so I feel like this would be a great size to take on holiday with you, or if I was going away for a weekend, I'd want to take this, but I'd have to take a yellow eyeshadow with me. It almost annoys me. I really like and I really want to love it. So why is that shade missing? I just don't understand why you would remove it. I feel like it is incomplete without it, and you're always going to have to use a separate yellow to use with this palette. I think it's a shame. I really do, because I think the quality is fantastic, and like I said, if you want me to try any of the other Makeup Obsession palettes, leave them down below because I want to. I just don't understand why they've removed the yellow. It's literally that tiny niggling thing that's just really bothering me. Anyway guys, as always, I really hope that you found this video helpful. Let me know in the comments what you thought of it, and give it a big thumbs up, and of course subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the next video, and I'll see you all on the next one. Bye guys!